Item number
Madam
5.
Chair, I'd like to present you with a written request on this agenda item here to hold the next executive session in public.
Mr. Town Attorneys?
This particular executive session is being called under the section of the law that allows for an executive session to discuss personnel issues as well as to conduct or to discuss charges or investigations. In this case, my understanding is it's a discussion of a personnel issue rather than a charge or an investigation. In cases where you're discussing a personnel issue rather than a charge or investigation, there is no opportunity for the person being discussed to be present, nor is there an opportunity for that person to request that the executive session be held as a public session. So to the extent that you want to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue that you feel might be better discussed in executive session because of privacy issues, you can do that, and it's not subject to a request for the person being discussed to be there or to change that into a public session. However, to the extent you're going in to discuss charges against someone or an investigation of someone, that then opens up the ability for that person to request to be there or have it held in public session. And my understanding of what you're intending to do here, it is not subject to those two requests. Should I answer the question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Israel.
Madam Chair, notwithstanding, my name is John Richardson. I represent Mark Pearson. And notwithstanding what Mr. Israel just said, if you vote if unfortunately, if you don't get to that executive session, then we would like, if there are issues, to have them addressed here. And we don't fear, we want transparency, we don't fear the discussion, nor should you fear the discussion. I think the public would invite that openness, and so we want to be on the record as indicating that if the executive session motion fails, which I believe it will as it did, then we have no objections to having matters discussed right here in the public once and for all. Thank you.
I guess we will be moving good and welfare, I would hope. I hope we do get to go into executive session, because this will be the third time to try to, just sit as a council and talk about stuff, which I think we desperately need, and that's the intent of the executive session tonight. I guess if we're going to be going down the road, the path of this letter and what's happening, I guess first I'm going to ask the council, I'm going to read the executive session. We're going to see where we go. I'm hoping that the council, out of courtesy, this will be the third time that we've tried to go into executive session just to talk, because really we haven't been able to talk. And I've requested an executive session 3 times based on personnel matters, which is something that we are totally entitled to do. I'm going to read the agenda item number 5861, executive session, discussion with possible action, personnel matters related to the town manager. Note, this item discusses privacy issues defined under Title I MRSA, Section 4056A, and the council anticipates that the discussion portion will occur in executive session. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to
To
go
the
into
chair.
executive session?
To the chair.
Yes.
Mr. Israel? Glenn, sorry. What, do you understand what this executive session is about?
My understanding of the purpose of the executive session is to discuss personnel matters related to the town manager.
Do you have details?
Do I have details?
Yes.
The discussion
Were you-
is, this
were you-
discussion is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Were you given any details about this executive session?
Yes,
You were. And when did you receive that information?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me.
I have very little detail. I mean, I have more detail than I just expressed. The detail is to discuss.
I have none. I have zero.
Executive session.
I haven't been given any background information.
One
I
at a
haven't
time.
been given any background information on the purpose of this meeting whatsoever. At all. Well, usually I have some clue. Usually I pick up the phone and say, Usually if somebody...
Order,
Thank you
order,
so
please.
much, Mr. Weinstein. That was really pleasant. Appreciate it. I don't have any
Order,
idea. There's been
order.
no discussion whatsoever.
Counselor Dayton?
Madam Chair.
No
Counsel-
communication.
Madam
Counselor
Chair,
Dayton,
And
please.
to the chair. I
Point of
still
order.
have the floor. I still have the floor.
point of order, point of order.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I would ask that a particular member in the crowd that made a personal attack be censored and warned under your rules not to conduct a meeting like this and make those comments. No, no.
Please, if someone, everybody, I'm going to read the
To the
council
chair.
rules of, I'm going to
To the
read the...
chair.
You're not
I
ready.
would like to know if the town manager was informed on what this meeting was about.
Counselor
Since
Dayton,
it's about him, was he given any details of the information at all? Or perhaps his attorney? Or is Mr. Israel the only Glenn, the only one who has any idea what this is about?
Madam
Is
Secretary,
that, do you,
we have a motion and a second on
Mr.
the
Richardson,
table.
do you know what this is about?
Through the chair?
Do you have any details?
The answer is, we
You're not
all
rec-
know what this
Sir,
is
you're
about,
not-
ma'am.
Sir, you're not recognized.
We all know what this is about.
Mr. Richardson?
This is about the attempted
Mr.
termination of the
Richardson?
town manager.
Mr. Richardson, you're out of order.
Thank you.
I'm going to be reading, one moment. I'm going to be reading the council rules of order pertaining to conversation, and I'm going to ask the police chief if anybody speaks out of turn or heckles or says anything that isn't, and they're not recognized by the chair of the town council, they will be removed. Chief, they will be removed from the building.
First Amendment right, ma'am, very careful.
The heckle,
Very careful with respect to the First Amendment. The Constitution allows free speech.
I'm actually going to have our town attorneys read the council rules of order pertaining to this.
Madam Chairman, members of the council, members of the public, the procedures for addressing the council are set out in some clarity to try to address, to give
Chambers to order, please.
a fair opportunity to put points forward that assist the council in the matter before them. And the concept here is not just to have free outbursts and uncontrolled communications, because actually, the importance is to make sure that this panel up here, with this matter before them, is duly informed on the circumstances. The rules are as follows. Persons wishing to address the council on an item which appears on the agenda shall wait till the chairperson announces the consideration of the item, at which time they may address the council on that particular item. Remarks and questions shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member thereof. No person other than the members of the council and the person having the floor shall enter in discussion either directly or through a member of the council without the permission of the chair. However, once the council has begun deliberations, and this is when the public proceedings will be done, then the comments are no longer in order. Persons wishing to address the council on an item not appearing in the agenda, not relevant here, is number 2. Person wishing to address the council shall signify desire by raising his or her hand. Recognized by the chairperson, such person shall thereupon request permission to address the council, giving his or her name and address and designating the subject matter of which he desires to address the council. Persons present at a council meeting are requested not to applaud or otherwise express approval or disapproval of statements made on actions at such meeting. Persons addressing the council on an item prior to the start of deliberations on the council shall be permitted to speak only once on an item and shall limit his or her remarks on each item to 5 minutes, unless permission to speak longer is requested and granted by a majority vote of the council. Persons attending council meetings shall observe the same rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct applicable to members of the council. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remark that becomes boisterous while attending the council meeting shall be removed from the room if a police officer is so directed by the chair. So I think the idea here is to make sure that we are conversant, making our points made that on the points that are before you, and courteous.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. So we have a motion and a second on the table to go into executive session. Will the
Madam
secretary-
Chairman,
will the secretary
Madam
call for the
Chairman,
vote?
Madam Chairman, I have a point to make.
Yes.
Counselor Dayton? Do you have a point to make?
I have a point to make.
Why, I would say, everybody else has a chance to talk.
There was
Why
not.
can't you?
We have a motion and second on the table, and I've asked the secretary to call for the
There was
vote
second
to
for
go into
discussion.
executive session.
I thought there was second for discussion.
It was not.
Well,
Counselor Dayton?
we've always been allowed to speak.
We've always been allowed to speak, and you're shutting this
Now, all of a sudden,
down?
we're not? Now, all of a sudden, when he's not allowed to ask whatever it is he has a question to ask?
Okay, obviously, the council can, the chairman can be overruled by the majority of the council. Someone make a motion to allow discussion before we take the vote to go into executive session.
Fine, make a
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
Will you call for the vote on that?
Counselor Dayton?
Yes.
Counselor Furtada?
No.
Counselor Mela? No. Counselor Quinn?
Yes.
Counselor Coleman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bolduc?
No.
Chair McDonald?
No.
The Gang of Four
That
has
fails.
just shut down debate.
That fails 4-3. Will the secretary call for the vote to go into executive session?
Counselor Dayton?
No.
Counselor Furtada?
Yes.
Counselor Mela? Yes. Counselor Quinn?
No.
Counselor Coleman?
Before I announce my vote, I asked the chair 3 questions on Friday. I have yet to receive a response. Those questions were, will the town have its own legal representation present? I imagine that Mr. Pearson will be represented by counsel. If your intent is to consider a move against Mr. Pearson's continued employment, it would be prudent to have our attorney present. Number 2, knowing Mr. Pearson's publicly stated preference, as is his right under Maine law, to have the public present at any meeting in which his job is in question, why are you claiming privacy issues defined under 1 MRSA, Section 405, 6, I believe it's 6A, as a reason to enter into executive session outside of public view? Number 3, knowing the widespread and deep support Mr. Pearson enjoys in our community, why do you persist in going down this foolish path? I await your prompt reply to my questions on behalf of our constituents. Excuse me. The taxpayers and residents of Old Orchard Beach. My vote is no.
Vice Chair Bolduc?
Yes.
Chair McDonald?
Yes, that fails because we need 5 votes to go into executive session. This is the third, just for,
If you had answered my questions, I could have gone into executive session, but you decided to be arrogant and disrespectful
Point of order.
and not answer a reasonable question from a fellow counselor.
You didn't read your whole statement.
thank you, Councilor Coleman. Councilor Maylott?
Thank you, through the chair. I wanted to say, given the fact that, and this is new information that came out today, given the fact that the town manager has already today filed 1 lawsuit against the inhabitants of the town of Old Orchard Beach, I am not willing to give specifics about these personnel matters at this time. I am also dismayed and disheartened that my fellow counselors will not go into a healthy discussion in an executive session. And some of these counselors try to pit resident against resident. The right thing to do is often not the easy thing to do. To keep kicking the can down the road is irresponsible, to say the least. And the people who know me know what I do only after careful consideration and deliberation. So in an effort to prevent the taxpayers of this town from possibly being filed against a second suit from this town manager, I will not comment on these personnel details publicly, whether he waives his right or not, because it can come back on us. At this time, I move that the council provide the town manager with written notice as follows. Pursuant to Section 4 of the employment agreement between the town of Old Orchard Beach and Mark Pearson, dated February 13th, 2012, you are hereby notified of the town's intention to terminate that agreement for no cause, with such termination to become effective as of the close of business on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2013. And further move that the council authorize the town manager to take a leave of absence with full pay and benefits during that 4-week period, following his receipt of notice of the town's intent to terminate his employment agreement for no cause, and the date on which that contract is terminated. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded.
To the chair, point of order.
Yes.
Since that specific charge was not on the agenda, it is out of order, and I believe it to be illegal to be brought up at this time. If you need to bring that up, put it on the agenda.
Will our town attorney please speak to that?
Good evening. Looking for my agenda here, I seem to have misplaced it, but my understanding is that the agenda item here seeks the executive session, which is a procedural means of getting to the point, but it's clearly related to the personnel on the town manager, and what's been proposed here is in regards to the manager's contract. So in my view, I think this is in order for the disposition of the council tonight. It may not be the preference of myself and others to proceed this way, but I think it's here, and it's present and should be acted on and disposed of.
To the chair.
Yes.
Rob, the reason that was just given only just happened tonight. Clearly, this was written days ago. So clearly, whatever this agenda item with this executive session was written about and for, which remains a complete mystery, does not have any is not applicable to what she just stated. She's referencing a totally different incident that only just happened today, which quite frankly was because of the illegal vote that was taken last week. So how can it be relevant?
Our hope was to have the discussion in executive session related to the matters that's been brought forward at this time, but that opportunity failed. And so the matter is still on in regards to the personnel issue related to the manager.
It's still on.
Still on.
It means
It's on
we
the
can still
agenda
talk
item.
about it. That means if the public has any questions, they could ask. They probably should. Soon.
Wait, counsel, I'm going to ask the council. We have a motion and a second on the table. The second was not for discussion. That's the motion and the second that we have on the table. Second.
If you move to a vote at this time, I believe that you will be recalled tomorrow morning.
Furthermore, we need to, if the council's wish, if the majority of the council's wish is to have the public vote to talk about it tonight, then that's what we'll do. If it isn't, then we're going to call for the vote. So does someone
I say let
want-
them speak.
Does someone want to make a motion to allow public comment on this?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Will the secretary call for the vote?
Counselor Coleman?
No. I'm sorry. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Counselor Quinn?
Yes.
Counselor Mela?
No, for the reasons I stated.
Dada?
No.
Counselor Dayton?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bolduc?
No, due to legal liabilities.
The liabilities are going to be much greater if you proceed down this path.
You're out of order?
Chair McDonald?
No, that fails. So will the secretary call for the vote on the motion?
Well, wait a minute. Can I just get a couple things?
Are you going to
the
tell
chair.
all these people
To the
here that
chair.
they cannot speak?
It's good in
Is
welfare.
that what you're telling?
It's good in
That's good
welfare.
and welfare.
To the chair.
Will the secretary call for the vote
To
on the
chair.
item And the second.
I need clarification on now what we're voting on. And so I want to be clear what just happened. So we,
Yes.
When I was going through the points on the Rule 277, perhaps this was lost in the discussion or the understanding, but Section 277 talks about the procedure for addressing the council, and it does state that persons wishing to address the council will be given an opportunity to do so in accordance with the procedures that we outlined a moment ago. I think that in terms of the concerns about liability and the other points here, the council, by enabling members of the public to speak, I don't think it increases the council's liability or the town's liability. You're just allowing people to address the issue that's before them. So I think in deference to the points raised here by Councilor Coleman, it would be my suggestion that some public discussion be allowed. But then again, I would suggest that people be mindful of the courteousness and the protocols set forth in Rule 277.
thank you.
I'll rescind my vote.
Through the chair,
Yes,
through the
Mr. Quinn.
chair. A question to council. I'm under section 904 of the charter, and it reads, "No action shall be taken on agenda items which have not been posted and published in accordance with this section, unless the council, commission, committee, or board determines that an emergency exists." And there has been no declaration of an emergency in this case, so the question I have for you is this a legal motion? The motion that's on the floor.
Mr. Quinn, I believe you're looking at Section 904, the general provisions of the charter. My understanding is that, I mean, this was posted. I'm not exactly sure about the timing when the agenda was issued, but the matter, I believe, is before the council.
So where do you draw that line of vagueness? You're interpreting this to say that this motion, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that this motion is legal, but the vagueness, and you've heard other councilors speak here saying, I don't know what's entailed in this agenda item, but by the same token, you're saying that even though an emergency doesn't exist, this can be interpreted to be a legal motion, if I'm understanding you correctly.
I keep dropping my agenda somewhere.
Madam Chairman, may I speak on this issue before you make a final vote? I'm concerned about conflict of interest. I'm concerned about bias. I have to make a record. I have to make that point so that it's kept within this record for appeal. And so I'd like to have just the courtesy of 1 minute to make that point.
First of all, I would point out a couple things. One is that I think we all read the paper yesterday. The second point is that clearly the manager knew what was coming. He gave you the letter requesting things to be in the public. And so I think the scope here, perhaps not as defined as precisely as some people might prefer, gets us to the goal of having this matter properly before the council and the subject matter to be acted on. That's my view.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Appropriate to nominate.
Anybody that lives in Old Orchard Beach is allowed to speak as a tax-paying resident.
My name is Fred Dahlgren. I live in Old Orchard Beach. I'm a citizen, taxpayer, everything else. I got all the bona fides you possibly need to talk. I'm not sure where we are at any point here, but I think I have the right to make a few remarks. There's an old saying about politics making strange bedfellows. To see the truth of this old adage, look no further than the current Old Orchard Beach Town Council. The result of the recent election gave our town one of the strangest power-hungry cliques in recent memory. A cabal of 4 councilors who are voting in lockstep with whatever strange agenda Chairperson Shari McDonald is conjuring up. The present lineup seems to be as follows. The McDonald 4, consisting of Chairperson McDonald and blind followers Laura Baldock, Linda Mailhart, and Dana Furtado. The losing 3, in any vote of importance, will predictably be Mike Coleman, Bob Quinn, and Robin Dayton. By the way, Quinn and Dayton received the highest number of votes in the last election. Just when many voters believed that a 7-person council would magically provide more diversity and allow for a more representative and more democratic council, Murphy's Law took over. Remember Murphy? Whatever can go wrong will. The dysfunctionality of our gang of 4 majority was openly on parade recently when their leader decided that it was time for our latest town manager to take a walk. Was Councilor McDonald for a Guinness Book of Records in the category of most town managers of small towns replaced in a 5-year period? If the council could fire Mark Pearson after less than a year of employment, OOB would be a strong contender for the award, with Mr. Pearson being the 4th town manager to come and go in less than 5 years. But Mark Pearson is no pushover. He's been around small-town politics in a wide variety of positions, and because he had the confidence in his performance as OOB's town manager, he can smell an illegal and immoral act of small-town tyranny. He refused Shari's offer to resign. He knew he was being railroaded by a political posse, and he knew he had the right and duty to contest McDonald's high-handed decision, especially since none of the council members publicly cited any specific reasons to warrant his dismissal. The strange behavior of 3 recently elected councilors in office for less than a month to so easily fall in line with their chairwoman's phony allegations led many of us to jam these chambers last month to protest this ridiculous and illegal action. All of which begs the question, was Manager Pearson, in his effort to straighten out the town's finances, uncovering some unusual practices? What was the real story behind the library scandal? Why did the previous finance director quit after only a short stint? She sure sounded like a straight shooter to me. Look, fellow citizens, our country, our state, and our town will be facing some really critical issues. The next big climate catastrophe might easily wipe out our beach and the whole tourist industry it supports. Are we planning for this eventuality? Will we be ready to handle the massive stresses of increasing poverty, homelessness, and unemployment? Call me an alarmist if you want, but there are serious life-threatening issues to confront our town. We need serious minds and decent motives to lead us in the coming months and years. Backroom cabals and personal power plays are definitely not the answer. We need transparency and democracy to get us through the long winters ahead. I refuse to believe that the world, or my town council, is being run by my high school class. Maybe it's time for some recalls. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Todd Bassett. I live at
5 Forest Avenue in Old Orchard Beach. I really am very, very deeply distressed. I had the privilege of spending more than 2 hours with the chairman of the town council, reviewing information that she had. I appreciate that time. I have also had opportunity, not at my direction, and I asked for the time with the council chair, but others came to me and wanted to share information that, quite frankly, was disturbing, because it gave indication that there could be a conflict of interest with members of the council as it relates to this whole situation with the town manager. From day one, in my meeting with the council chair as well as with other people, I have tried to maintain a neutral position. I feel I have a neutral position right this moment, because in spite of the information that was shared with me, and it's in more detail here tonight as it relates to budget items, that quite frankly, this evening, a counselor has suggested that the whole budgeting process is simple. It's similar to doing your own checkbook. No, it's far from that. A line item process has been, as has been even pointed out by the attorney, is a very heavy, detailed, cumbersome responsibility, especially when there's as major a change as is taking place in this process. So that it's not simple. Furthermore, as I've listened this evening, as I've made notations, more than 50% of the overages that were made to sound like these enormous out of account are really under $1,000. And we're talking about a $25 million budget. And almost every single expenditure is within the context of the department that you're transferring money for. I've dealt with large budgets. We are talking about minutia of routine handling of transfer of funds, which now, by charter, has to be done through the council, not through a finance department, but through the council. Fine, if that's the process. But it's not enormous. But the process is cumbersome and difficult, much more so than your own checkbook. Now, as it relates to the town manager, and I've said to him, I'm not here to defend him. I don't have enough information to defend him. So that, from my standpoint, we don't need to be having either or. There may be enough information beyond what's been shared with me to cause concern, and you may want to put him on probation for 3 months while you finish uncovering whatever it is. But if we go back to the audit information that was given to us on December 4th, we're talking about the fact that on December 4th, 3 people who were part of agreeing to the continuation of his contract were supporting him, and 3 people
who had spent 3 weeks on the council were looking to get rid of him. And the counselor who said that if you know me, you know I do my diligence. I don't know that counselor. But just sheer logic said to me back on December 4th, how can 3 people who have just come on the council be prepared to ask for the resignation of the town manager? To me, that was irresponsible. And I still haven't seen enough information to say he needs to be terminated. It's not either or. He can be put on probation while the rest of the information is garnered, the audit is finalized, we can see the detail. But the council members who are in a position where I believe should possibly recuse themselves need to be careful, because the documentation that has been shared with me shows a potential conflict of interest. And if this man is terminated, then I think the town has every right to at least be absolutely assured that when that audit is finalized, the audit and the management letter is available to the public. We need to know, because even what was shared with me is not enough to say that counselor needs to be recalled or taken off. There's procedural things that have not taken place appropriately. He may have done some things inappropriately, but not to the extent of needing to be terminated, at least not in what has been demonstrated to this point. I believe there is a neutral position where our community does not need to be torn apart any further. What we are doing here tonight is unnecessary.
I want to begin by publicly thanking Councilors Quinn, Dayton, and Coleman for fighting hard to have logic and reason prevail, for acting ethically and within the scope of the town charter. We applaud your efforts. Well, here we are again. I really thought it would be a bit longer than this before another attempt at getting rid of the town manager was tried, but I really should have known better. It's clearly in somebody's best interest for this town manager to be gone, despite the fact that a number of us clearly support him. The question is, whose interest does this serve? If you will recall, we met in December in strong support of this town manager. Why is this being revisited again now? Why is there such a rush? Does it have anything to do with the pending results of the audit? Why not wait until after the audit is complete and the people in this town have a clearer picture as to what has gone on? Again, why the rush? Perhaps there are some things that people feel they don't want seen. That's understandable, because there are some things that are lying right out there that just seem out of sorts. There's a whole raft of stuff I've discovered just poking around a little bit. If I found it, I'm sure this town manager also found it and is probably looking deeper than I have. It seems to me that what we need is to keep this town manager and, as Freddie suggested, can some of the town council. An acute and aware town manager like Mr. Pearson might notice the same things and ask the same questions that I have, such as, Why are we giving 12 contracting jobs just shy of $5,000 to a sibling of a sitting town councilor? He would know, of course, that work costing more than $5,000 would require approval by full council, but that items for less than $5,000 don't. He must also be asking the same question I asked as to why 5 of these contracts are grouped and paid within a 2-week period, some on successive days like June 30th, July 1st, July 2nd. Does this make any sense to anybody? I'm sure it doesn't make any sense to this town manager or to the auditor currently auditing our books. Being an experienced contractor himself, I'm sure he wonders why the scopes of work by some bidders on the same jobs were so very different. For example, the winner on one job had 6 items on their scope of work, when a contractor just $203 higher had 9 items that were more comprehensive in their scope of work. More work offered for only $203 additional dollars might have been a pretty good deal. And I'm sure it would seem as strange to this town manager as it does to me that a local gas station would be paid $2,000 for a printing job, or that they nearly another $1,000 for producing a banner. My biggest question about all this, however, is why a sitting councilor actually signed the town forms, called warrants, authorizing payments to relatives, and didn't recuse themselves due to conflict of interest. Explainable? Maybe to some, but not to someone as sharp as this town manager. If you go back to the crux of conflict of interest, which we went through quite a bit a couple of Januaries ago, there are no explanations because, and I quote, "If public confidence in government is to be maintained and enhanced, it is not enough that councilors avoid acts of misconduct. They must also be very careful to avoid acts that may create an appearance of misconduct." Is it wrong for businesses owned by relatives of a councilor to do business in the town? Of course not. But when that happens, the councilor needs to be extremely careful there is no appearance of misconduct. That doesn't seem to be the case here. On top of all this, this council seems to pick and choose who needs to obey rules or the charter while disregarding rules themselves. I, like many of the people in this town, are baffled. But then I read this article about Maine being one of 8 states to earn an F, right here, in a corruption study. These are some extra copies. Oh yeah, read it. Isn't that great? Excuse me. I've got extra copies, you can take it, but my biggest fear is that the word Maine in this headline is going to be replaced by Old Orchard Beach. It's what's going on now really, really concerns me. Okay. You're not listening. Okay. I don't know if what you've done tonight is legal, but like listening to the will of the people, rules and legalities don't seem to matter. Putting the town at risk of legal suits also doesn't seem to matter. Wouldn't it be great if the council is ignoring rules and state law, had some of their own private money in jeopardy? Maybe they think things through a little bit more. You're not listening to any of us anymore, any more than you're listening to the councilors Coleman, Dayton, or Quinn. I honestly hope you realize how many of the people in this town are fed up. Even if this town manager has faults, if you do manage to terminate him, do you honestly believe any solid candidates would want to come to be the next town manager? Or maybe that's the goal, to have someone not as sharp, someone that won't ask so many questions, or maybe you won't need to hire a town manager at all because the town will be run by the council chair. This is definitely not our finest hour, and I fear even darker days are ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
and let's get on with it. Thank you.
Dave Francor, 50 Park Ave, Old Orchard. Just to correct the record, Mr. Weinstein, I am not a firefighter in the town of Old Orchard.
Please, yeah, just direct us.
Okay?
Please
Well, I just wanted to clarify that.
It's
'cause
fine, but just
he keeps
say it
pointing
to us.
fingers, so.
Yes.
I just want to let you guys know that you guys are supposed to be in a position of public trust to represent the taxpayers here. I'm very frustrated at what I'm seeing here with the attempted termination of the town manager. Every time we turn the corner here, it's really disrespectful for the people of the town of Old Orchard Beach, taxpayers, and you know, I really would like to give you guys the option to resign or time for us to organize a recall, because this is ridiculous. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
I came here tonight saying I wasn't going to get up, but I'm telling you, I keep asking, when is this going to stop? When is it going to stop? I've lived here all my life. My parents lived here. We had businesses here. And do I think for a moment that I should be treated any differently because my family had businesses here? No, I believe everybody in Old Orchard Beach should be treated the same. There shouldn't be favors going on to anybody because you own businesses in town or because you hold positions in town. Everybody should be treated the same. I don't care who you are. You're going out of this world with the clothes that are on your back, and that is it. Your prestige and everything, but I'm getting sidetracked here. I've been reading in the paper, and I like to read the comments sometimes when people write in on these newspaper articles. A lot of times I don't like to read them because a lot of times there's garbage, you know, and you just listen, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, somebody made a really neat point, and it was about the removal of our town manager here, and it said, seems to me like there's some kind of criminal investigations that are going on, and that would be a reason for getting rid of him. Now, I'm an old Columbo fan. I've got box Columbo movies at my house that I absolutely love, and there are some episodes on Columbo that as soon as Columbo was getting close, guess who got pulled off the investigation? Columbo. So this has really got me wondering, what the heck is going on here? Why are we getting rid of him? As a resident, I think he's done a great job. The money that he has saved this town, the money that he has found. As an employee, I can't tell you how wonderful it has been to work for him. He comes into our office like a stealth. We don't even know he's there. All of a sudden he's behind you, and you better be doing what you're supposed to be doing on that computer, because he's there. You know, I just don't get this. I've got to tell you, I've got some questions too, like Mr. Bassett. 2 to 3 weeks, and you guys were ready to get rid of him. What is going on? This 4-3 vote, before we talked about the 3-2 vote, for me personally, and I don't care who disagrees with me, you can do that, the 3-2 vote was moving us in a better direction than this 4-3 vote is moving us. It has got to stop. I'm telling you, when you get rid of the town manager too, do you know what that does to us as employees? We're in this turmoil all the time. Town managers coming, going, coming, going. Who would want to come here? Why would you want to come? Sorry, my mouth is really dry because I am really upset. Why would you want to come and be a town manager here? Mike Tusignan had said at one of the last meetings, of all the qualifications of the town managers, he was the best. He was the best. And what are we doing? Bye. See you later. We don't think you're a good fit. I'm not going to be disrespectful with that comment to the council. I think he's a great fit. Maybe my opinion doesn't matter. Apparently it doesn't. Apparently the pleas of people in this town do not matter, because there are other opinions that matter more. I am sick of it. I am disgusted. I didn't get involved with politics until I started working for this town. I didn't care. I just lived here. Now I'm involved, and it makes me sick. I go home at night from these council meetings and I'm totally riled up. I feel bad for my husband. I go home and I'm and it's like it takes me a couple hours to settle down, and I gotta get ready to come back. What?
Call me. I'm up.
This is terrible. It has got to stop. I would ask you to please, please take back that vote. I do not want to see this town manager go. I don't know what you think you have on him, but I think he's done a great job. Have we forgotten all the money? You know, you talk about this whole, he's only been here a year. We've got our code officer here. He's been here almost a year. Do you know it's taken him almost that long to kind of figure things out here in the town, what he has to do, how things work, the ordinances here? It takes some time. You guys haven't, he's been here a year, and you're ready, he's gone. Our code officer's doing a wonderful job. Did he do a great job the first month he came in? Probably not. We had to show him. James, this is what's going on in our office. This is what you need to do. These are the customers. This is how we do things. You know, he has his he has his codes, but we also have ordinances in this town that he had to learn. And it's taken him that time. You guys are not giving this man this time, and I am really, 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 really concerned and worried about why. Why? This is why I didn't want to get up here tonight. I'm usually a happy person until I come to these meetings. I think everybody in this town thinks I'm a blibbering idiot. She's just so angry, and I'm not. I am so happy. Do I look happy? I am a happy person until I come to these meetings and I just go home and I am so frustrated. I am just so frustrated. Please, please, I am asking you to reconsider. I'm going to ask, please, too, to get rid of the new buzzword, the majority of the council. Every time I hear it, I get sick to my stomach, because we know that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the majority of the council. It's just, well, you know, if I have the majority of the council, you got it. You got it. It's the 4. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's the way it's going. Please, please, make up your own minds. Be individual. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror at night. And all I can say, when you go out of this world, when your little video's going by, the things you've been doing all your life, these things will be on it. The decisions that you've made will be on it. Thank you.
Good evening. Tom Gillis, Union Ave, Old Orchard Beach. I'm just going to be very brief. One thing the town might want to consider is transferring about $250,000 into their legal account, because I think that's about what it's going to cost with this action. You know what this town can do with $250,000 right now? Now you're going to throw it away on paying this guy, paying Mark, and legal. I mean, I think after Bernstein Sure gets through in a year, they should be sending everyone in Old Orchard a gift basket, because that's what it's going to cost. Just think of the cost of this action. I'm guessing between $250,000 and $400,000. It's a lot of money that this school could use.
Good evening. My name is Chris Johnson. I live at 8 Walden Avenue. And I made a facetious remark today in the Press Herald. I invited people to watch our cable television tonight for the continuing saga of Pearson's Place. I guaranteed it would be a good show, replete with allegations of impropriety, malfeasance, misfeasance. Fortunately, my prediction was right. The ratings should be wonderful, and that is a disgrace to our town. I don't find fault with wanting to change a town manager. I do find fault when the manner in which it's done isn't, let me use the word clear, because transparency is one of the most misused of all words in our political vocabulary these days. It's usually used in an accusatory sense that really wasn't meant to be that way. Clarity in government really means just one thing, and that is that the people who have voted officials into office understand why they're making decisions. Whether they agree with those or not is a matter for the ballot box, but at least they have the right to understand them. What's happened in our community over the last several months is that it became clear through the grapevine that Mark Pearson was not long for Old Orchard Beach. That could have happened in a number of ways. It might have been that a discussion was had in public about his performance. It was discussed, found unsatisfactory, and he was discharged for cause. It might have been that he had performed some scurrilous act of skullduggery and was brought up on charges and was booted out of town. Also, although I'm not as clear as other members of the audience seem to be, there may be a provision in his contract where he can be terminated for no reason, but of course we pay the price for that. Mr. Pearson has done nothing that I'm aware of except ask for an opportunity for whatever dissatisfaction may exist to be discussed in public, to be brought to public attention. It isn't the public that votes on that, it's you. And having heard those discussions, you could easily have voted to terminate him. Instead, what happened tonight was a chapter that I really couldn't have written about Pearson's place, and that's why I returned here, in order to say this. I would beseech you not to take the course that was suggested by Councilman Mailhot. Clearly, it seems to me, a course that was charted sometime before this evening, which is merely to vote to terminate Mr. Pearson for no cause. I'd urge you to reconsider, and in fact to have a discussion, and to air the reasons why he may not be a good fit. Then if you want to discharge him, regardless of any wrongdoing, you can do so, but at least it would have been done in public, and your reasons and your thinking would have been clear to all of us. As it is, whether you like Mark Pearson or you don't like Mark Pearson, there's nobody here who understands what's happening. And I think that's the reason for the animosity, the vocal outbursts, none of which is appropriate, certainly not castigating members of the council, certainly not bringing hateful thoughts of, by way of innuendo. Those were completely uncalled for. But this is what we've brought on ourselves. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sean O'Neill, 1 Oakrest Drive, Old Orchard Beach, Maine. I stand before you as I did the last meeting, and I ask again for fairness. I stand before you and represent somebody in a neutral position. I'm going to ask the Council to take a step back and request not only a financial audit, but a forensic audit. And let's go back to the bond in 2008 when we started that forensic audit. Because I think a lot of this could have been avoided had that taken place, and all the facts could have been clearly displayed publicly as a result of that audit. Not just a regular audit. An audit will show you what is factual but not in depth. And we need the answers as to what is the underlying cause for this. That has not been brought forth. I'll echo the last speaker, ask you to reconsider the motion that is on the table. I'll ask you to be consistent in your actions, not only with how you treat members of the public, but treat members of the council as well. The inconsistency with council's actions can be disheartening as well. When we were initially not allowed to speak our minds and when express our thoughts to you, that was troublesome to me. And it tells me that there's more behind this than what there is, and that needs to stop. And I ask council respectfully to do that. Thank you, council.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak to this issue?
I'm Scott Toomey. I'm a resident of Old Orchard Beach, 56 Ross Road. I guess my frustration is with the council is that that you haven't really been up front and forward with what's going on. It's always been an executive session, and it's always been not clear of what the charges are against the town manager or what he's done wrong. I haven't even heard any discussion on why it's even being considered that you're asking for his termination. I just think it's not fair. I think it should be public. I think there should be out there on what he did wrong, and I haven't heard anything. And I don't think it's fair for the council to have this private session where it's not out there to the public. I think it just looks like you're hiding something, and I just don't think it's fair.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Would anybody else like to speak to this agenda item?
To the chair, I'd like that gentleman to get an answer. What is the answer? I mean, without cause? You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to terminate him without cause. Really? Is that where we're going? No, it isn't. I would like an answer, and I think that gentleman deserves an answer, and I think the other people who've asked that same question over and over and over again, including Kathy all night long, deserve an answer. Because I don't know what the answer is either. What is the reason? What's the reason? You're not going to answer. Stone silence.
Hi, King Weinstein.
Good job. Thousands of dollars. Great.
Phil Weinberg, 111 West Grand Avenue. The problem is, we don't know why you don't like him. It's very simple. Okay, he was away for 60 days. Let's hear the explanation or the non-explanation. That's a start. That's a start, you know? Is it that people don't take, do town managers generally take that much time or that little time or what? We don't know. And other than that, it's all innuendo. There's nothing solid that you have in your case. You have a nothing case to terminate the man. Tell us what the case is, or otherwise you're going to look like fools.
My name is Jody Balestra, 8 Cherry Hills Road, Old Orchard. I just moved here in November, and this is my first town council meeting. And it's really kind of overwhelming to hear how many people have come and gone in the town government very quickly. I've never heard of any such thing. I was involved in town government, the town I came from. It's a much bigger town, and we certainly didn't turn over help the way you people are in this town. There is definitely a problem here, and I don't think that it's the town manager. I think we need to start looking at why we can't hold on to our government officials.
Madam Chair, may my attorney speak for me?
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. I'll be brief. I don't want to go over what was already discussed, but there was one issue that was brought up, and that was the issue of a complaint that was filed today in York County Superior Court seeking declaratory judgment or relief, or an answer, if you will, to the issue that has given rise, I think, to what you're about to do here. And people have talked about when this is irreconcilable. and that they just have to move on. Sometimes when you can't get along, you just have to move on. Well, I have a different way of resolving issues. I've resolved issues by the rule of law, and frankly, that's what you do when you have a dispute. And so today, the town manager filed a complaint in York County Superior Court to determine whether he has the right to non-renew or not, or whether you have a right to be involved or not. And so you can't resolve this dispute. Your answer is to terminate him. Our answer is that there is some way, some middle ground that has been discussed here. Can't we find some middle ground? And the answer is, of course we can. We can ask a court. We can ask a judge. What is the answer? What is that answer? Is it the town manager who has the right, or is it obviously the town council? We'd be very happy to defer to the town council if, in fact, a judge makes that determination. But I think you need a third party to come in here and intervene on behalf of both the council and also the town manager. You've had, what, 4, I think, town managers in 5 years. I predict you'll have another one within 6 years. And that's the unfortunate part, but I think we can resolve this if we make a determination as to who really is the CEO of this particular municipality. Who runs the personnel issues that relate to this particular municipality? One of the things that, as I said to you, is the authority for personnel actions. And Mark filed a complaint. We did so on his behalf. One of the things you should know is that Mark did not do this lightly. He did not non-renew lightly. He sought out the legal opinion of Attorney Glenn Israel, who's here in the room. He sought out the advice of Jeff Holt, who's an attorney at Bernstein Shore. He was told that no less than 3 separate attorneys on their own at Bernstein and Shore had looked at whether he had the right to non-renew or not. And all 3 independently came to the same conclusion. The fact is that he did. And so as a result of that, we were put in a position in which he worked very closely with Glenn Israel. Glenn helped him craft the letter that was the non-renewal letter, and they gave him an opinion. And that opinion, obviously, is something that we'll provide to you. But he was working on good faith. 3 separate attorneys from the firm that you hired as your legal counsel, telling him he had the right to do what he did. Now, you believe that you had the right, as the town council, to step into a personnel matter. I don't think you do. Your attorneys don't think you do, and 3 of your counselors don't think you do. And many of the people in this community don't think you do either. But if you do, and all of us are wrong, then we can defer. We can defer to the council from this point forward. We can honor the rule of law. We can allow a third party to determine the outcome. We don't have to take it this far. We don't have to go to the final end. Some want you to for their own personal benefit, but you don't have to. And as a result of that, what we did is file, and you will have an answer, I think, very quickly from a judge in the very near future as to who it is who has the right to make these decisions. Because really, I see this as the council determining whether or not they're the ones who control things. And I think you do, to a certain extent, to the extent that charter permits you to the extent that state law allows you. And when it doesn't, it falls then to the town manager, for a very good reason. Public policy is that way because it's protecting people that work for government against politicians and elected officials who sit where you sit, so that there's a buffer between you and the employees that work for this town. And that's why you hire a professional manager, and that's why you confer to him or her all the rights and privileges of a CEO and a town manager form of government. So all I want to say, and I have, and made up documents showing you the complaint. We're not suing the town. We're looking for an answer. There's no money damages here. We're looking for what is right. What is our legal obligation as a town manager? What are we supposed to do? We went and got the town's attorney's advice, followed that advice, and we find ourselves here today. It's unfortunate, but there's a way out. And the way out is the court system, and allowing a judge to make that final determination as to whether it's you or whether it's the town manager. And so, Madam Chair, I have copies of the document. I'd like to provide them to you, if that's okay, and then you can obviously provide them to the fellow members of the council.
The court document?
It's the attachments and the, what's called a declaratory judgment
Right,
itself.
what you sent to the town attorney today?
I did, but I didn't send the attachments. It was too voluminous, but I can
Yeah.
provide that to you.
Yeah, well, you can give it to the town attorney.
Fair enough. I'll give copies, and I have made enough copies so that you could have them, and I have a couple for the public. One final note. I know a lot of people have said it's a rush to judgment. Some of you have been elected for just 3 weeks and then moved to have the town manager removed, and a lot of people think that's probably unwise, maybe a little premature. But I think that if we can sort out the differences and allow a judge to decide, and we feel very confident of our position, and if you feel very confident of your position as 4 members of the council, then let's let an independent third party figure this out. And let's move on. And let's govern as they want you to govern, and as we are desperately seeking to try to do as the town manager. Thank you very much for giving me the time, and I'll provide this to him.
I think I need to just very briefly clarify the legal opinion and the advice that we provided to the town manager, because I don't think that Attorney Richardson was 100% complete in what he stated. There was advice given to the town manager that pursuant to the charter, he had the legal authority to non-renew the contract of a department head. However, together with that advice, additional advice was provided, both in writing and verbally, that if he reached that decision, that it would be best for him to advise the council before he did it, in case the council felt differently. It's clear that the manager reports to the council. The charter says in section 502 that the manager shall have or shall be responsible to the council for the proper administration of the day-to-day affairs of the town. Therefore, although he has the legal power to do what he did, he is supervised and is the employee of the town, which acts through the council. And so that's the advice that he got in whole, and I wanted to make it clear that was the advice that was given, not just the portion of it that Mr. Richardson quoted.
Thank you, and he's got some documents for you.
I do, and Madam Chair, I'll let the documents speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I have a difference of
Sir.
opinion, obviously, but
Yeah, just
we'll let
give
them
it
speak
to-
for themselves.
Yes.
Please pay close attention to the legal opinion that's written by Attorney Jeff Hull. That would be helpful to you.
We have a motion and second on the table.
Through the chair.
Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Just want to talk about, a little bit about the reason why I voted no in regard to going into executive session. I have to have a good reason to do that. I believe that as a public servant, I need to do the business of the town in the eye of the full public. And I didn't have a good reason to go in there. I know from experience, 2 years on the council, that executive sessions tend to be, we'll call them BS sessions. Things get out of hand. The town manager has asked to have his hearing in public. I think he's entitled to that. Everything should be open to the public, and all the comments that are made by citizens, by the manager, by his attorney, by our attorney, by counselors here should all be of record, not in a back room. And that's the reason why I didn't vote for that. And I just wanted to go back to a little before the December 12th meeting that was mentioned, and what happened when the new council was first seated. During the campaign, I ran for a second term on the council, as a lot of you know, this past fall. And as part of that, my campaigning, I knocked on 1,500 doors. I talked to a lot of people. I heard about a lot of issues, but I didn't hear one negative comment about the town manager. Then 3 weeks after the new council, or a little less than 3 weeks after the new council was seated, already 3 new councilors has decided they were going to dump the town manager. And we still haven't heard any substantive reasons. And that's a good part of what motivates me to want to do this with full exposure to the public. Councilor Maylott, in her prepared statement and motion, mentioned that a fair conversation could be had in executive session, but my experience tells me differently. But the consequences, the important thing of the vote or the motion that's on the table right now is the consequences this is going to cause to the town. Not only financially, but otherwise, just in the view of the public of what we're doing here and what outsiders think of the town. Those are all items that should be taken into consideration. And I remember when the previous town manager left, he left us a folder that was as thick as this folder here, maybe it was in a binder, of all the things that were on the table, all the things that he was working on. He had them classified A, B, C, D in order of priority. And the same, this is ongoing. This is the dynamics of running a community. And this is where we'll be this time. We have all this on the table. It's been referenced to by Kathy Smith, I believe, that how are these things going to be taken care of? There's a learning curve when somebody new comes on board, if we can even get somebody new on board, given the political climate here. So those are all things that should be taken into consideration, and I think that it would be very wrong for us to vote the town manager out of office at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Anybody else like to speak to this topic?
To the chair, what are your plans for the budget if we don't have a town manager? How is that going to work? What is your plans for the budget if we don't have a town manager? You going to do it yourself? Are you expecting Diana to do it all? How is business going to be conducted without a town manager? And we don't have an assistant town manager, because she's on leave. And we have, staff who are being retaliated against because of all this nonsense that we all don't know what it is. And don't look at me like you don't know what I'm talking about, because I know you do. We have staff that are being retaliated against because of what happened last week, and you know that. So just exactly how is this town going to run? How is it going to run without a town manager? How are we going to get a budget done? How are we going to get anything done that we're supposed to get done? All these changes that we just made to fix this horrendous line item budget issue is so dramatic. How are we going to get that done? How is any of this going to get done? Are you going to come in here and do it? I mean, is that where you're headed? Is that how this is going to go? Or you already planned to hire somebody else to take over? Because that's the rumor on the street, is that the planner, which is why the whole presentation this morning was Jeffrey's going to come in and be the interim town manager. That's the rumor. So clearly you've had conversations with other people about how this is all going to go, but you apparently don't want to share that with everybody else. So is that about right? As usual, I'm not getting any answers, as usual. So, just to answer to the gentleman who referred to me as Rosanna Dana, thank you so much. Yeah, that was nice. The reason we didn't go into executive session because there's nothing to talk about. You can't get any answers. There's absolutely nothing to talk about. Nobody knows. Can't talk about it. There's no cause. There's no cause here. There's no reasonable explanation. There's nothing.
Through the chair.
It's empty. It's empty. So to all the individuals who think something really is wrong and that there really is something going on, you are absolutely correct. And guess what? It's been going on for a long time. And this town manager disrupted it. He started finding out what the heck all the problems were, and he started fixing them. And that's what the reaction is. Oh, can't have that. Can't start fixing things the way they're supposed to be. Can't follow the rules. No way. This is sad. I don't know what lies in store for Old Orchard Beach, but it isn't going to be good. It absolutely isn't going to be good. And I appreciate those individuals who've spoken tonight and asked the question over and over and over again, what is this about? We still don't have an answer. I appreciate every single one of you. But I think you know in your heart what it's about. We tried to implement change. We tried to do the right thing. We tried to bring in a purchasing policy. We tried to follow the law. We tried to stop no big contracts. We tried to stop the corruption. There's a lot of corruption in Old Orchard Beach, and we tried to stop that, and this is what the result is. This is the result. And if anybody has any question in their mind, that's it. The horrible truth you don't want to believe, it really is true. It's unfortunate. And I'm sorry, Mr. Pearson, I'm sorry.
Councilor Furtado?
I believe the date was December 7th, 2012. The chairman went into the town manager's office and said that a majority of the council wanted him to resign. And so he was going to give the opportunity to resign as a professional courtesy. I will address that because it's an actually good point. If you want to get rid of somebody in any labor environment, you want them to resign rather than trying to fire them. Because, as our attorneys I'm sure will tell us, if you do fire them, there can be consequences. There can be consequences for wrongful termination, for being arbitrary, and a whole host of reasons. So yes, if you want someone to leave, it's always best to have them resign. I won't go that far, because what had happened there was that not all the council was asked. Not all the council was asked in chamber. It was what could be apparently an illegal meeting. It's illegal for us to get together outside of the public unless it's an announced executive session. It's illegal for a quorum of us to get together. So we have to do the business, your business, in public. So we talk about relationships, we talk about trust. How can this man here trust when he knows that 3 councilors plus the chair, right off the bat, less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks into their term, wanted to get rid of him? So that's why we're here. Yeah, I've avoided going into executive session because I believe he has a right to defend himself in the public. That's his right. His right to have it in public is in Maine law. So we have to obey Maine law. We live in Maine. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Pearson is a taxpayer in the state of Maine. He may not be paying property tax in the state of Maine, but I know he pays a hefty income tax, as anyone does in the state of Maine. So I haven't seen anything that would make me want to send him down the road. So sometimes you have to do things on a procedural level. There was no reason that I could see to go into executive session. On this particular instance, I didn't get an answer. Why are we going down this path? What's the reason? All I hear is this nebulous personnel issues, which means absolutely nothing. Did he do something really terrible? Did he do something only a little terrible? Was it material enough to waste all of our time? That's where we're at today. It's been, and I've said, and I will continue to say, I believe it's been reckless to go down this path. It's been absolutely reckless to go down this path because there are serious consequences. One of the citizens, Mr. Gillis, estimated 250 to 400,000. That sounds about right to me. That sounds pretty reasonable. You know, it is also, when I think about hiring this town manager, thinking about the resumes that we looked at, and talking to the people that we talked to, there were some fine people, but I didn't think that any of them were capable of running this town, except for Mark. If we send him down the road, we're going to be faced with the same type of choice, plus a little extra history. One more town manager that we haven't kept for even a year. Who's going to want to come here? Who in the world is going to want to be the manager of this town? Knowing that you'll be here today, and you'll be gone tomorrow. Now, I would urge us to be cautious here, because if it does cost us $250,000 or $400,000, you know, that's a lot of money that we can spend on things that we really need to do. When I think about some of the things that this town manager has accomplished for us, saving us $1.5 million on our waste disposal, getting us into compliance with IRS regulations where we could have faced major fines because we weren't sending out the 1099s. There's a lot of things that have been happening that this man has accomplished, and maybe he is overturning rocks that he shouldn't be overturning. Maybe he's looking under those rocks he shouldn't be, but that's part of the job of running a town. I just hope that we do the right thing here tonight. I fear we won't. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Could I just say something? I'm Peg Bales, and I live on Fern Park Avenue in Old Orchard Beach. I've been around this town all my life, and permanent resident since 1996. And I'm glad to finally live here full-time. And I've heard a lot of talk, just summing things up, about communication from all of you on the council. And I think that that's what the public is crying out for, communication with our councilors. Because I've been to 2 of these meetings, and I haven't yet heard a cause for letting Mark Pearson go. And we still haven't. We've gone through another meeting, heard a lot of comments, pro and con. And as treasurer of one of the town committees, I've had a couple conversations with Mark Pearson. So personally, I can say he's been very helpful to me. And I'd like to hear in public what the problems are, and I think that that's what the public is crying out for. And I really don't know how it happens that 4 councilors see all these things wrong, and 3 of them don't really know what the other 4 talk about. And I think that the public wants to know the same thing. What is the big problem that can't be worked with by giving him, if there is a problem, he needs to be given steps to improve rather than just oust him after 1 year. So communication is between the council and the residents of the town, because remember, who pays for all this? We pay hefty property taxes. So I appreciate the open meeting.
Thank you.
My name is Beverly Russell from 6 School Street, and I just want to ask a question that maybe I can get an answer to, maybe not. But why does Mr. Weinstein have the right to sit there and keep yelling things out? He's done it continuously, and he hasn't been removed.
Well, okay, I take that under advisement. I think a lot of people have been saying a few things from the crowd tonight, and there was only one person when there was an altercation at the podium that we actually asked to be removed.
Well, I think he's been doing a lot of yelling and should be
Well, I will
removed.
definitely take that, and if it happens again, I will have him removed.
And as far as saying you don't discuss marriage problems in front of children, we're not children.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this topic?
I'm Dick Bales. I'll be quick. I learned the hard way that once you ring a bell, you can't unring it. If you don't believe me, ask one of the prior speakers how often I've done that. Seriously, I caution particularly the 4 who voted for executive session and may vote to terminate. Be very careful, because once you ring that bell, you cannot unring it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? We have a motion and second on the table. Will the secretary call for the vote?
Counselor Coleman?
On the motion to remove the manager, absolutely no.
Counselor Quinn?
No.
Counselor Mailer?
Yes.
Counselor Dayton?
On the motion to remove the town manager without cause for no reason whatsoever, absolutely not.
Counselor Furtado?
On the motion to buy out the contract per the town manager's specific contract that he drafted up, yes.
Vice Chair Bolduc?
Yes.
Chair McDonald?
Yes, that carries 4-3.